Good evening, everyone. System Chalk here with the 74th episode of Book of Hours, our first run through YouTube playing as the artist. And we have a pretty clear idea of where we're going with the playthrough tonight. So we're just sleeping through, we're going through the night with a memory of Impulse. We're going to use that to read Inem, Kapinglingpur, Garki, and Krippus. We're going to probably bring in Mr. or Mrs. Kill, probably Mrs. Kill, to be able to get some memories for quenchings and quellings and weaving and not working. There's a small complication in the sense that both of them are looking for heart, but that's fine. I mean, it's mostly, what I'm trying to do here is just avoid as many conflicts as possible and sort of spread out that surface area of things that I can potentially use. But that's going to mean we're going to be looking for 8 total memories plus whatever comes out of Inem, Kapinglingpur, Garki, and Krippus. And then for leftovers in terms of things that I want to do, we're going to want to tame the viper. We're going to want to settle down the chicken, resentful Terrence. And then I would like to get back to my investigations of Brian Levinson's paintings in Alopolis Nook, although that's going to be on something of the back burner because we have 3 nocturnal books to catalog. So again, that's probably going to be something that takes us through a better part of the week, if not the whole thing. But also, for some reason, I forgot that I have 2 Lignum Vitae blocks, so it probably, way back when I was trying to decide what I would do with to get that old moment and work with the minor, turns out that I probably could have done that. Unless I got that recently and I'm just forgetting. But anyways, found it. We won't worry about that now, but that's something I'll keep in mind when the year crosses over. We may in fact have a new year in the new year, but we'll worry about that later. Let's just let the timer run down. I probably could have talked about all that while the evening ran through. So one of the big deciders here is just going to be with the Arab. I think what I'll do is I'll use the Arab Plus to bring Mrs. Kill in, because Arab is usually a really good candidate for cataloging some books. If it winds up being cursed, it's not that hard for me to bring it back. Whereas it's also not hard for me to bring the Arab Plus back, but the drawback is if I lose that, I lose more. I lose more aspect. So generally, what I do is I use this one for actions, and I use this one sort of, as a more riskier one. Although I think the nocturnal books are pretty safe. It's Solar and Dawn, which I think are more likely to have curses. Anyways, we won't worry about that. In fact, one thing on my backlog is to actually start taking care of all these different books with their various curses. Whoops. I think I also have been mispronounced. It's Shaylong. Anyways. I do like the descriptions of the two. So here the librarian Harry sat to formulate the paradoxes he would bequeath to Van Loren. Here the librarian Van Loren lay to ponder the paradoxes he had inherited from Harry's. There's also a couple of details about this relationship. Did I forget to run the game? My apologies. There's a couple of details about the relationship between Harry's and Van Loren, which I've been appreciating slowly over time. But for now, we're going to speak with Mrs. Kill. Mrs. Kill's mood always improves when I drop by. Here we go. Mrs. Kill stands ready to help. You always cheer me up, she says morosely. Okay, rainy day. That does not help me with quenchings and quellings and weaving and not working, but we'll work with what we've got. We already have the memory. I've carried the memory like a flambeau safe through the mazes of night. This will complete once dawn has come. So we will get to work on our book right away at Natan's desk. It's an apothecary's desk, all right, but it dates from at least 100 years after Natan of Regensburg came here. Of course, his son, his grandson, and his great-grandson were all Natan's too. So Trist, Edict's Liminal, the Impulse, and then we add the Shears of the Sisterhood to complete the picture. I can master this mystery, enough moth to match mystery moth. So, this is one of the trickier spots that I find myself in, because there are a number of things that I would like to do today, And one of those things is to go out, to the more even Crowcross Sands. Basically, I would like to acquire more items. But again, it's worth remembering that I'm looking for a total of 8 memories with which to upgrade. And of course, these are also going to need elements of the soul to do the upgrade with. So I am, in fact, looking for 10. So I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 different memories, different elements of the soul right now. Now, I don't want to just be sort of sitting down and waiting for everything to happen with Mrs. Kill. But what I am going to do here is I'll use the Faust to at least get the earnings back, and then we'll sort of let the memories as they emerge sort of decide where we go with quenchings and quellings and weaving and not working. I could offer help with correspondence and arithmetic. There's no school in Brandkrug, and not everyone here knows their letters. So let's have a chat. Mrs. Kill has seen more of the world than she usually lets on. Conversations with her yield the occasional surprise. So again, we'll hang on to the egg, we'll hang on to the vegetables to feed the animals with, because we want a clearer idea of what's happening with the various memories, but I always preserve the option. Actually, it would also be nice to tend to the bees, but... Okay, a storm's a good start, so there it is, and me no tizzer. Mrs. Kill, as every local gossip knows, came from France to marry Mr. Kill, but there's scant trace of the continent in her accent now. So that applies to both. But I don't want to be too strict about it. Once we get to the halfway point in the day, I might decide to do something with the core. Or maybe not just the core, but like the tryst and all of that. But okay, an afternoon spent profitably reading newspapers to the curious, writing affectionate letters to the lonely, for the lonely, steering farmers through the requirements of the Ministry of Agriculture. I'm going to take that Faust and put in the 3 pence again. It is summer. I am sitting on the bench outside the Sweet Bones, eating crumbly cheese and nettle wrappings and good black rye bread, soaking up the sun. Okay, gossip doesn't really help me in this case, so we'll put that beside the rain. Again, what I'm really doing right now is just sort of setting the table for all of the work that will happen in about 45 seconds. We may even wind up with a memory that helps me decide between quenchings and quellings and weaving and not working. And in fact, if we get something that's looking for grail, that's even better, because we can employ the rain and the gossip towards that. But I don't want to be counting any of the memories before. I'm really trying not to say count my chickens before they hatch, because I have a pretty reliable set of eggs I can work with. Okay, that's 2 memories we can use. Thank you, Mrs. Kill. Alright, there we go. Inam Kapinglingpur Garki Krippis, in which 4 enigmatic figures tell the stories they've heard over the years at the Roost, the secret location where the Aviform Hours congregate. Inam, has not the beach crow shared his treasures? Garki, not the rarest. He takes those things most precious, which he claims found, not stolen. The beach crow, Kapinglingpur, suggests if not only a thief, but also a spy and even a voyeur. He has hidden the memory of secret couplings among the hours and their names in the corners of the house as treasures to gloat over. There is particularly fevered speculation on a liaison between the Ringu, that fervent hour of the wood, and the mare in the tree, who sometimes has been the witch's sister. Fairly significant revelations there, but okay, so transformations and liberations and a foresight, so not directly relevant to my immediate needs. But we will file this properly first, so foresight shelf here. So this does create some complications in terms of working out my next few steps. But let's say where we can go. I don't think I have any. Like, I don't have an immediate need to choose one memory or like one upgrade over another. Both of these have heart, and we'll do like I can settle with either at the moment. So better now. Now I do have a little bit of a dilemma here in the sense that I need to pick an element of the soul to renew. I guess I can bring back the Tryst, and then that just saves the core for weaving and not working. But this is a bit of a weird one. I very rarely bring this back just because of the money. It just doesn't bring as much money. But again, it's not about the money at this point. I'm actually pretty well off. Tuppence will buy me a hearty meal and a quiet place where I can rest and gather my thoughts. In summer, I am sitting on the bench outside the Sweet Bones, eating crumbly cheese and nettle wrappings and good black rye bread, soaking up the sun. Okay, so regret decides the map. Technically, I could also say transformations and liberations. In fact, let's put that in perspective. Oh, here it is. Okay, so it'll eventually be another 5 when the time comes. So, hang on. I really misjudged this one, so... Oh, that was silly. There we go. Yeah, so it's about the same difficulty as any of these other ones. I think my best bet right now is just to take Quenchings and Quellings and level that up, so we can use the Whist for that, seeing as it doesn't use the Tryst. So, Quenching... Oop. That's not a conversation topic. There we go. So, Quenchings and Quellings... Did I forget? Yeah, I need 4. What am I doing? All right, no, but I have a pretty clear step. Now, one thing I can actually do to make this easier for myself is if I get the Bittersweet Certainty, then I save myself the trouble of potentially getting stepped on by any of Mrs. Kill's conversation topics. So I believe it's Glimmerings. Yeah, that's the only one that'll give us a Bittersweet Certainty right now. I've already mastered this, but I could reread it and perhaps recall a memory. And in fact, if I take the time, I should also be able to use the Perugian Diaries or the Instruments of the Heart along similar lines. So let's use our Foss to bring one of those in as well. We'll use Instruments of the Heart in this case. And this is just partly because it's clear that I have lots of different things that I can use all of this for. So I'm gonna we're augmenting Mrs. Kill's contributions to just speed along the memories that we need. Now, if she winds up giving me something that's helpful for Quenchings and Quellings, that's fine, because that just allows us to repurpose the Storm or the Satisfaction towards weaving and not working. Which wouldn't be a bad outcome, incidentally. Okay, there it is in Be No Tizzer. Mrs. Kill, as every local gossip knows, came from France to marry Mr. Kill, but there's scat trace of the continent in her accent now, so Stolen Secret doesn't really help me out there. Mrs. Kill has seen more of the world than she usually lets on. Conversations with her yield the occasional surprise. I don't know if I want to bring back the Arab Plus when all is said and done here, but we'll see where we're at after the various books have been read. Okay, better now. I mean, I suppose the real drawback here is just this may wind up being used in the nocturnal area. Well, no, there's other ways we can sort this out. So I'll pay for my cheese. Okay, so we have got Revelation, which doesn't immediately help me unless I've misunderstood transformations and liberations. We have Glimmerings, an anonymous prison diary written by a dreamer convicted of oniric irresponsibility and confined to the Kukurbet. The prisoner is plainly terrified and bewildered by their situation, and has been unable to wrangle a coherent explanation out of anyone, but the dreams keep coming and they keep writing them down. Snow, broken mirrors, half-heard sky music, flowers of white, red, and black, a blood-streaked winter dawn, the most notorious signifiers of oniric risk, fantastically vivid and detailed. No wonder they were locked up. Their final recorded dream is of a worm jewel beneath Brandkrug Isle, which they open with a key carved from their finger bone. So the nice thing about the bittersweet certainty is we know that Mrs. Kill can't generate it, although in this case it won't matter because we're going to use all of these anyway. And then here we have the Instruments of the Heart. Sister Isabel, the precentress of the Abbey Church of St. Brendan's, engages in dialogues with a heart-long of a kind called Dwendrazon, who has taken partial possession of her body. Dwendrazon, like all its kind, usually dwells in the mansis, but can enter the physical world by manifesting as music and take possession of a willing or semi-willing mortal who hears and loves that music, like Isabella. Isabella records her dreams of the High Mansis, where she is accorded the Dwendrazon status and titles. In return, the Dwendrazon enjoys what it calls a caesura, a welcome oblivion. Our mostly blessing is that we may never cease, except in caesura. There is something more that Isabella refers to as the caesura magna, but she laments that her Dwendrazon will not tell her exactly what that might be. So this we'll probably wind up using with the weaving and not working. The cheerful ditty isn't helpful for transformations and liberations, but it does stay around despite whatever Mrs. Kill might do. So, talk with Mrs. Kill. Mrs. Kill has seen more of the world than she usually lets on. Conversations with her yield the occasional surprise. So let's also level up quenchings and quellings at this point. And this is Heart or Winter, so it's really my choice in terms of what I want to use with these, but I think for this one we'll use, oops, not Tryst, Whist. So satisfying to have come this far. Now, because we're at the halfway point of the day, this is also a good time to take stock. So we'll be able to have a number of conversations with Mrs. Kill, but what I want to do right now is just say, let's say that Mrs. Kill doesn't get me anything. What are the elements of the soul that I have to work with? What can I accomplish with them? And is there room for me to do some of these other things that I would want to do, such as tend to the bees, go to the moor to, try and find some more wood, go to Crowcross Sands, find a mackerel to feed the cat, those sorts of things. So with weaving and not working, at minimum, we need three to restore the weaving and not working, and then we can use the Tryst there. Now, transformations and liberations were actually in fairly good shape, and that's because we only need 3 for our first one. So technically, we only need 2 elements of the soul, and then of course we also have the element that we would give up. So it's probably, so let's just say, we use the 2 core to level that up. Yeah, so everything would be occupied. So in this case here, we can clear the deck as far as everything that we have right now. So what I'm going to do is, as Mrs. Kill winds up giving me memories that I can use, I'm going to start releasing elements of the soul to the various priorities that I have. And if we wind up at the end of the day with, without something that basically with something more than what we need, I can always use them to catalog some books. I should be able to catalog 2 books before the evening comes. Again, it depends on the timers and how quick I am with the space bar. That's going to be the general shape of how the rest of the day goes. This is a little more conservative than what I would normally want. In fact, I can't go to the moor now because that's going to take too long. So I suspect this is going to translate into a lot of cataloging, which is still not a problem. Okay, so there's a gossip which we can't really use. There it is in Camino Tizzer. Mrs. Kill, as every local gossip knows, came from France to marry Mr. Kill, but there's scant trace of the continent in her accent now. And here we have quenchings and quellings, arts which quench fires and bring solace to the troubled mind. A true adept is never troubled by fire, nor by fever, nor by restless spirit. Ambrose Westcott. Tough call in terms of whether or not I want to use this to restore another element of the soul. The argument for is it lets me catalog some books. The argument against is that my consider verb is actually going to be occupied for quite some time. So you know what? I think the time has come for us to let's read a bunch of books, because I think it's going to be very crowded for me to take care of everything that I need. So we're going to use the Arab to... Yeah, okay. So weaving and not working. Let's think about what are the... Okay, well, there's one easy thing that I can... drat. Okay, there is still an easy thing that I can do, but this takes up the consider verb in a way that I was hoping I wouldn't. So we can make a storm. That gives me an easy part to work with. Okay, so we need 2 more moth or heart to work with. I think I'm going to have to take a chance on one of these no matter what. Let's do Gemini add 1. I mean, I could use it there, but it's good to get into the habit because I have messed this up a couple of times. Okay, so there's the solace. We'll also get the storm. We'll use metal for that. Okay, so those are the ones for weaving and not working. And then I need 2 more for transformations and liberations. Ideally ones that give me forge, so a regret would not be out of place. Oh, right, that's a Fushing text, so on the white. And then I guess that means that I would need to go for the intuition. Let's go for ambrosial on that one. I guess that leaves me a leftover fet. I've already mastered this, but I could reread it and perhaps recall a memory. Okay, I'm feeling a little nervous, but we'll make this work. The satisfaction does help me, so we can probably try and preserve the intuition when the time comes. Mrs. Gill has seen more of the world than she usually lets on. Conversations with her yield the occasional surprise. I definitely need to use the storm. The rest we'll see. The thread parts, the weave is empty, the skies cry out. Okay, that goes here. It's not quite enough for us to push through to level up weaving and not working, but we're close. What I can do, though, is I can catalog a book using the fet. This book was probably written around the time of Hush House's nocturnal period, after the turn of the century. If I examine it, I can learn more about what knowledge it might contain. It did also occur to me that what I might have been able to do was to get something that would give me touch, But unfortunately, all of these are sight, or at least they should be if they're like the other paintings. So not directly relevant to my needs right now, but something maybe I could have done. And I am a little worried that we're actually going to push over. We're going to push over into the next day, so I may be down an element of the soul. Which is fine. I'll use the tryst last in that particular case, seeing as we know... Actually, no. Well, I guess it doesn't really matter. Yeah, so this is the time I should be committing things. I'm definitely going to be down an element of the soul. Ambrosial. Ambrose Westcott's inventive, one might say pioneering or indeed buccaneering essays into kitchen craft. Westcott proudly announces his intention to transform cuisine to become an engine of alchemy, a fount of war. Westcott compares the ferocity of fire with the intensity of appetite as, in essence, one essence. A fire's ability to transform and destroy grows when it is offered the correct fuel. So, too, he implies, can a sufficiently inspired appetite allow its possessor to consume greatly, strangely, unwisely. Okay, so I'm going to hang on to that impulse, I think. Let's see where else we are. So, on the white, Solomon Husher writes, perhaps allegorically, of winter and its long, slow, doomed romance with the sun. The epigraph is sunset at noon. On closer investigation, the work seems to be a theory of aesthetics, or perhaps a set of warnings about the dangers of painting. Husher writes distractedly about his suspicion of colors and his yearning for death. He hints at a great work he has envisaged, or begun, where the palest of paintings will enthrall the world. He returns again and again to certain compelling phrases which he claims are the secret words of winter. So that's going to be for transformations and liberations. We've got Apollo and Marsyas, the libretto of a lost opera concerning the contest between Apollo and Marsyas and its tragic outcome. The librettist is identified only by their initials. In the original myth, Marsyas lost the musical contest and was flayed by Apollo, who later regretted it. In this version, Marsyas' skin has a further history. The skin of Marsyas gives oracles and is later smuggled to Phrygia, where the priestesses of Cybele use it for a drum. At the climax, the striking of the drum drives would-be violators of the priestesses to suicidal madness. The opera ends with a wistful hymn from the youngest priestess on the beauty of mountain pines. And finally, the Geminiad Volume 1, a fragile manuscript illuminated with twin shapes of sad and luminous beauty and with all the phases of the moon. It might be as old as the 7th century, but the language Fusine is much older. The cover is tooled goatskin decorated with garnet. These pages outline the nature and doctrines of an hour that weaves together the willing, an hour that is sought beneath the moon and at the water's edge, the sister and witch. The language is willful, naughty, poetic. It will take some untangling. The first volume of the Geminiad reminds us that the sister and witch has been known to manifest as the witch and sister, and that this face is always hungry while the other face may heal. It implies connections between the sister and witch and the hours of the upper mansis, especially the lunar hour called Meniscate, but it is ambiguous on whether the sister and witch is a mansis hour proper, and it speaks at length about the sadness of the two who are one, the sadness that remains from their time as flesh. Okay, so we have a lot of stuff to work with. We're now going to want to think about how we can employ all of this, because it just occurred to me I have overloaded on heart. Yep. So this impulse is the only thing that I could use for transformations and liberations. Yeah, this is a bit of a stumble here. Shoot. Guess it doesn't really matter what I do with any of these. Well, I guess we can see what happens with Mrs. Kill, but Now I have an idea of this book's nature and its contents. From History to Eternity, that is a 10 moth, which should be pretty straightforward for us to read. So... that actually means, in this case... Nope, I gotta go with weaving and not working first. Okay, so we'll take the weaving and not working. Doesn't really matter what I do here, but we'll take the storm, the satisfaction, the memory storm, I guess. Memory solace. So satisfying to have come so far. So we'll see what Mrs. Kill gives me. Okay, so that's a bit of a shame too, but you can't predict those kinds of outcomes. You never want to just roll the dice on losing so many other memories on the chance that the character gives you exactly what you need. So I'm not at all fussed about that. Now, in terms of carrying things overnight, we don't know what we're going to get out of From History to Eternity. It does say that it's talking about, Contraband Manual of the Inks of Revelation. I wonder what it could be. So knowing that, we can actually use that to our advantage. So that also wants moth, but it also has a lantern component. So the question, though, is I don't actually think that I can bring the lantern with me in the Violet Chamber. Yeah, so the only ones that I can carry with me would be Gossip, Stolen Secret, and Revelation. So, I don't know, we'll take the Stolen Secret just because it's rarer. Now that night has fallen, I can rest and perhaps dream on the on the day's doing. You get a little bit of a... This could have been better. But again, we have plenty of money. We'll have the memories that we need. We'll be down one element of the soul. You know, that's not critical. And we will have basically 4 memories to generate tomorrow, plus a book that we can read right away, because Edict's Liminal has a very high amount of moth. In fact, I don't even need Triss to read it. But let's get on with the level up before I lose my memories. Another fruit plucked from knowledge's tree. So we'll do the same routine from last time. We'll use the Arab to bring Mrs. Kill up to to bring Mrs. Kill in to generate some memories. Daybreak, memories fade, assistance departs, but the soul is refreshed. And we will save all of that for tomorrow's episode. So the main focus is going to be, we're getting close to the end of summer, but we have a fair enough shot with From History to Eternity, and we don't have that much kind of demanding of us for transformations and liberations. I suppose I should reflect on the fact that if I get more than one, I'm going to have to generate a lot of memories for Inks of Revelation, but we can deal with that at the time. But yeah, all of that will be something that we handle in the next episode. So thank you very much for watching, and we'll see you in the next one.